Good morning. Thank you to Millennium Campus Network. Thank you to Northeastern University for this opportunity for Peace Corps to be part of this just fantastic gathering. I got here last evening and have looked around this morning and just delighted to see all of you who committed to carrying out the work that some of these outstanding development professionals have been talking about over these next several years. I'll get the opportunity to do two things. I'm going to have the pleasure of introducing a gentleman who began as a Peace Corps volunteer and who's done outstanding work in the field, and you'll hear him talk about that on a much broader basis, but in the process I get to talk a little bit about Peace Corps. I'm delighted to be able to do it, and I think it'll be welcome. Some of you already in the few hours that I've been here have come up to talk about your interest in Peace Corps, and I want to make sure that I tweak and pique that interest and make sure you pursue it. You've already, those of you who are here have already taken the first step in showing your readiness for Peace Corps and for international service in general, but I'm talking about Peace Corps in particular, and about what that service, the opportunities that service will offer you to give to the people in the communities of the world and to have for yourself a life-defining personal and professional development experience. So I'll talk a bit about Peace Corps before introducing Steve Radlett, who will talk much more broadly about the range of issues that support the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. First of all, the Peace Corps mission and goals remain what they've been for 50 years, and that in which the volunteers, some 2,000 volunteers, 200,000 volunteers, have served in over 130 countries around the world. Presently serving in 76 are about 9,000 plus volunteers meeting this mission and carrying out these goals. The mission of Peace Corps is to promote world peace and understanding by achieving three goals. The first goal is to help the people of the countries and communities that invite us there to meet their need for trained men, women, and youth to define and address their own social and economic development needs. The second goal is to promote a better understanding of the people of the United States by your representation of them there. Very important goal. The third goal is that of increasing the understanding of the peoples of the world among the people of the United States when you come back. Again, some 200,000 volunteers have done that very successfully over the past 50 years, and the torch is to be passed on to you and your colleagues, those in your age group, to do that for the coming 50 years plus. The life of a Peace Corps volunteer is one of opportunity, but one of challenge, and the opportunity for unparalleled achievement, many volunteers will argue, and I certainly agree with that. As a volunteer, you live, work, become part of a community in a country for which you're selected for service, and with the skills and creativity and imagination and personal and professional commitment that you share with your neighbors and with your family there, you're able to make a mark on the goals and they're achieving the goals that they set for themselves. The areas in which by the way, that service begins, it's about 27 months of time overseas, the first 3 months of which are pre-service training that includes training you in the language or languages of that country and that area of the country in which you'll work, in cross-cultural communications and relation skills, and certainly in the technical skill sets that you'll need to carry out the project in question. We work across several sectors that include education. About 40% of our volunteers have historically been and continue to be in the sector of education. Another 23% are in health, including HIV/AIDS and such other areas as maternal child health and the range of primary health care issues. Another area in which we work, about 12% of our volunteers these days are in business and information communications technology. About the same percentage, 12%, in environment and natural resource management, about 4% in agriculture, and the rest of them in cross-cultural, rather cross-sector development projects. For example, a volunteer in an education project might indeed have responsibilities for HIV/AIDS education and prevention, and because of the skill sets they bring, be able to impart skills in information communication technology at the same time. So who are the volunteers? Who are the people that become volunteers? As I said, those of you who've identified yourselves by participating, have a self-identification by participating in this conference, are people who have a commitment to service, people who are prepared to give of themselves because they know it's the right thing to do, what they often don't bargain for is they're going to get as much out of it. Many volunteers will say more than they contribute because of the challenge it gives you and the opportunity it gives you to become who you will be the rest of your life. The people who are volunteers these days average about 28 years old. 50 people who are 50 years old plus constitute about 7% of our volunteers. 90% have a college degree, so that's one of the basic requirements. The remaining 10 or so percent of people who have professional experience and other life skills that are of value in the work that they can do in their communities. Minority groups from ethnic minorities in the United States, Asian Americans, African Americans, Latinos, and certainly, I think I've covered all the groups. If I didn't, I apologize. But indeed, they constitute about 20% of the volunteers. That is a challenge for Peace Corps. We think that we are convinced that should be more. We commit great effort to making it more. The reason is that to achieve goals 2 and 3, to make the people of the United States known to the people of the world, we need to have our volunteer corps be representative of all our peoples. Same thing as when they're coming back, we need those life experiences of the world overseas brought back to all of our communities. So we strive to do that. 61% of our volunteers are women, and 93% are single when they leave. Some don't come back single. So that's a good thing for us. We're all over the development, a good thing for our families as well. We serve all over the world. Presently, 39% of our volunteers serve in Africa, 24% in Latin America, about 18% in Asia, Eastern Europe and Central Asia, and I think 6% or so 3% in North and Eastern Africa, North Africa and the Middle East. Sorry. Now, I rushed through because, again, my main business here is to introduce Steve Radelet, but I wanted to give you this overview and to tell you that we have a table out near the registration desk over in the Student Center that will provide you more information. There are return volunteers there who will share their experiences and their stories with you and let you know what life is like. Further, we have a range of information sources about Peace Corps. We use all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and all of those. So we encourage you to pursue this. Again, you've demonstrated that this is a road that you're on, and we think that Peace Corps would be a great place to further your journey on that road. So let me stop there and move to the introduction of the speaker. Again, I'll tell you about Steve and his connection to Peace Corps, but I just want to be clear that he will talk about a range of issues well beyond Peace Corps. He's a scholar and a development professional that can speak to you across a broad range and in depth about the kinds of issues in which you've demonstrated interest and in which you've demonstrated accomplishments so far I've seen at this conference. Steve is the chief economist at the United States Agency for International Development. During 2010, he served as senior advisor for development for the Secretary of State, where he advised leadership on strategies to strengthen and elevate development across the U.S. government. From 2002 to 2010, he was a senior fellow at the Center for Global Development, where his work focused on economic growth, poverty reduction, foreign aid, debt, and trade. Steve served as an economic advisor to the president of Liberia from 2005 to 2009 and was founding co-chair of the Modernizing Foreign Assistance Network. From 2000 to 2002, he was Deputy Assistant Secretary of Treasury for the Africa, Middle East, and Asia. Then from 1990 to 2000, he was a fellow at the Harvard Institute for International Development and director of the Institute's macroeconomics program. He was a lecturer in economics and public policy at Harvard, at my own alma mater, at Harvard as well. He also served as resident advisor to the Ministry of Finance in Indonesia and the Gambia. Steve is, as I said, he's a scholar, a published author, having been the author of Emerging Africa, How 17 Countries Are Leading the Way. In 2010, that was published. Also, Challenging Foreign Aid, A Policymaker's Guide to the Millennium Challenge, published in 2003. He's also co-author of Economics of Development, the 6th edition being published in 2006, and that remains a leading undergraduate textbook. Steve holds a master's degree and a PhD degree in public policy from Harvard University and Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from Central Michigan University. And as I referenced earlier, much of this began, I'm sure that early in life, Steve can trace his roots back to Peace Corps and international service and the other things he's done before Peace Corps, but certainly I know that I've heard him say that it was an important step along the way for him. Steve and his wife, Carrie Hessler-Radelet, were Peace Corps volunteers in Western Samoa from 1981 to 1983. Steve has gone on to do his work at USAID. Carrie is the Deputy Director of Peace Corps, and my boss there, who's a leader and a mentor in the work in that agency. Again, it's my pleasure to present to you the Senior Economist for United States Agency for International Development, Steve Radelet.